I'm Dr. Sheldon Horowitz here at the National Center for Learning Disabilities. Welcome back to our Ask the Expert series. Today, I'd like to present an overview of learning disabilities in reading, also called dyslexia. There is no single type of dyslexia. Dyslexia presents in many different ways and is unique to each individual. We do know that dyslexia runs in families, and we also know that dyslexia, or some form of learning disability in reading, or a component of reading, is the most prevalent type of specific learning disability. Let's begin by looking at some of the specific types of problems that individuals with learning disabilities in reading, or dyslexia, will have. In young children, learning letter names and sounds is one of the areas that's very problematic for children with dyslexia. Another area of weakness is phonemic awareness, and by that we mean a number of different things. It's a category that encompasses a number of different kinds of skills that are the building blocks or the foundational building blocks of reading. So, for example, the ability to rhyme or recognize which words rhyme. Blending sounds together, so k, act will blend into the word cat. Segmenting, being able to segment words into pieces by their phonemes, by their sounds. Manipulating, so for example, if I have the word stop and I take the S and I pull it over to the back of the word, what do I get? I get the word tops. So stop turns into tops. Manipulating the sounds in the placement of the word is something that children with dyslexia often have great difficulty with. Alliteration is another area that's difficult for children with learning disabilities. Alliteration meaning a string of words that all start with the same letter. Phonological processing is also an area of particular weakness for many individuals with dyslexia. We're talking about phoneme awareness. We just mentioned what the ingredients or the components of phoneme awareness are, but phonological memory, remembering what sounds certain letters or clusters of letters make. And these children with phonological processing area weaknesses, as students with dyslexia or specific learning disability reading, are going to have difficulties with rapid naming. They're going to have difficulty even with familiar words being able to identify, or letters, identify what they are, what they say. The same goes for pictures, and even the same goes for objects. Automaticity is very important and a characteristic of children with dyslexia, individuals with dyslexia across the age span. What does that mean? Well, how automatic the reading process is. Do they read quickly enough to understand? If you're working really hard to do something automatically, you're going to lose a lot of that comprehension that you're trying to get out of the reading process. Decoding, clearly, is the sounding out process. It's also mapped onto a vocabulary of sight words that people learn just by virtue of them being around words and familiar with words, things that they memorize over time. So these are things that individuals with dyslexia will struggle with. Vocabulary is an area of weakness. Very often, children with dyslexia will talk around a word and not necessarily be able to find the exact word or the right word that they're looking for in a context. Dyslexia is very often identified in students in school-age children, middle school, and certainly on into high school and adulthood, in difficulties with spelling and in writing. Individuals with dyslexia, specific learning disabilities in reading, spend a lot of time guessing. And guessing can be productive if they're right, but it places a huge risk on their ability to comprehend and to verify and to validate what it is that they've actually read. So you'll see children with dyslexia doing a lot of guessing. That's one of the hallmarks as children get further on into their school years. If you don't do something well, you tend not to want to do a lot of it. So persistence is a difficulty that many children with dyslexia will show. They tend to give up. They're not reading for enjoyment. And by virtue of their not doing a lot of that reading activity, they often lose a lot of good background knowledge. So they're not learning about the world in as robust a way as their non-learning disabled peers. And we know that foreign language is really difficult for many students with dyslexia because it's a whole different symbol set. It's a whole different language sound system that has to map on a different vocabulary. Very often they can understand a language, they have difficulty reading it, or they can read a language because they have the decoding skills, but they have difficulty understanding what it is that they're reading. Most important about dyslexia, specific learning disability in reading, is that early recognition really does make a difference. The earlier you detect a problem in this area, the more opportunity there is to teach some of those foundational skills, the less likely it is that the child or the teenager or the adult will struggle in the long term. And there are lots and lots of assistive technologies that can be used and are used successfully by individuals who have dyslexia, who have specific learning disabilities in reading. And more information about those assistive technologies is being made available every day. For information about that and also about other kinds of learning disabilities, please visit the learning disabilities pages on the NCLD website, www.ld.org.